Hello, and welcome to another book review in a series called Freemasonry and Satanism. And this is book review number 57. And the book is Flying Serpents and Dragons. The story of mankind's reptilian past. We all know there's some strange things going on in the world. People are aware of UFO sightings and alien so-called abductions. Lots of people have heard about reptilians, shapeshifters, changelings as they're called even in the Bible. So who are these entities, creatures? Are they among us? Are they controlling things? Is this the secret establishment that Kennedy talked about? He said that controlled the world, and within days he was murdered. Or Reagan said that wouldn't all nations get together if they have a common enemy, such as aliens? And then he says, isn't this already the case? Something like that. Anyways, in the Bible it talks about the sons of God found the women fair and mated with them and created offspring called the Nephilim, the Raphael, giants. And mythology has all kinds of creatures, half lion, human head, half horse, human head, all kinds of grotesque entities. So the history is full of all this. Ancient India, China, their history is full of it. The dragons, the Hopi Indians, the Mayans, the Peruvians, the shamans take medicine, go into the trance, and say they come back and draw paintings of what they've seen. And they see snakes, serpent beings. I have some pictures here. So this ought to be an interesting book review. I'll try to be as coherent and as short as possible, but there's a lot here. So I went on the internet, looked up reptilians and images, and you can find these pictures. And some of these people, when they zoom up on them, like George Bush Sr. there, and the Queen, they say they see their faces shape-shifting. And there's a lot of mystery surrounding these creatures, as you can see the guy with the hoodie on there. Apparently, throughout history, when they built the tabernacles and the temples, they had to leave sacrificing foods outside on an altar, like barbecued meat, barbecued human even, animals. They didn't, and that's why in the Bible there should be no graven images. These creatures didn't want the people who worshiped them as gods back then to make idols and show what they looked like, because they horrified people, apparently. You can go on reptilian images on the internet, look this up, print these out yourself. Here's a funny little one on a video. Make viral, in-depth interview with Akesh about Comet Ison. Keep calm and prepare for UFO disclosure. So there's different descriptions of these beings. So I'm just setting the stage for this book when we talk about these beings, what they might look like. Ancient drawings and caves or photographs of creatures. I think this is a photograph of some creature in a cave. Apparently these creatures live underground all over the planet. And they're, in some cases, they're like spiritual beings. You can't see them, but somebody you're talking to could be possessed by them. And they say they can actually shapeshift and look like a human. There's one depiction somebody thought to make about the Queen. All the royal elite families, their divine right to be kings and queens. Is that it? Did these reptilian entities breed with ancient man, cavemen, you know, and create a race of humans to be slaves. Ancient stone monuments over there in Egypt. Here's one of these snake creatures with a baby. And then we got the Greys, which they say could possibly be their robot type like slaves. So you can see why they wouldn't want any images made of themselves. There's one of the E.T. creatures. Interestingly enough, so you got the idea. There's two types categorized. There's more, but these are the two basics. Your Greys. A lot of UFO sightings, abductions describe these things. While they're laying on a lab table being operated on, this is what they describe. That'd scare you. And sometimes they describe these creatures as the bosses of those Greys. Reptilian, scaly-like creatures. That's one part of the picture view. I'll just try to make this brief and get to the book. But one of the ancient symbols for Egypt and these creatures, as we will see in this book, is the winged disc. You see it everywhere. That's one of their symbols. There's an ancient Egyptian monument. See the snakes up there on top of around the disc? It's a common theme here. You can go on the internet, winged disc, ancient Egyptian. And remember all these divine people, Gilgamesh, the ancient giant or entity, half divine and half human. And apparently if you take off his shirt, he's got a scaly reptilian breast. That's how they identified these creatures. So my point with the winged disc here, here's one with the, looks like a falcon. Could be the, and they got the owl and the other images and the snakes in this picture. And the ankh, the cross-like thing with the circle on top by the feet. Crop circles, winged disc. Doesn't that look like an automobile symbol? One of the major manufacturers. Here's another stone disc with writings with the winged disc on the top. So I'm going to say something very explosive here in a minute. More Egyptian writings. So who is it that controls the United States? Who's behind all the SWAT teams and SS stormtroopers taking over our cities? Look at the winged disc and the snake and the wings and the round circle, the red disc. Is this that Nibiru Planet X that's coming? Do these creatures live on that Nibiru Planet X? And you don't think the Masons are part of this like I've been saying? Well, how about a Shriner's medal for you? Look at the winged disc on the top, and the snakes, the Shriner's swords, the star, the Pharaoh's head. If you keep following my videos, we're getting closer to the truth. This is an investigation, my book reviews. On topic, mummies and the winged disc. Okay, now for the explosive part. So you know that they're having SWAT teams and black helicopters all over the United States. And even the post office is buying bullets, Social Security offices. Well, in one case, there was this guy that saw some exercises going on by these SS stormtrooper type cops, and he started videoing them. And there's a video on the internet called "Cops Harass Citizen for Filming Police in Public." Watch this video. Now here's the explosive news. I was noticing the guy's shirt, the wings, the sword. They put their symbols on everything. Look at the wings. So we can assume that these are, I would assume, that these are related. Like the Germany swastika and all the other symbols, and the wings on the Germany symbols. And they're arming our police departments all over the United States. I haven't seen any examples at all of U.S. citizens being any kind of tyrannical threat. We have government actions and false flags galore. They're staffing up and gearing up to subdue us. You got these reptilians and red disc, and even the military and police officers are using the symbols. So getting to the book. How's that for a prelude? Prologue. Were Adam and Eve human? That's what it says here. So this ought to be an interesting thing to read here. The Old Testament account of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden is an abbreviated version of what actually happened. The real story has been changed through a long tradition of selection and revision. The ancient scriptures which were ignored gave us a different story. The ancient scriptures gave us a different story than the Bible. For example, according to the Haggadah, the source of Jewish legend and oral tradition, the following happened after they ate of the forbidden fruit. The first result was that Adam and Eve became naked. So did they have the scaly skin? And like a snake eating of the apple, did the Adam and Eve shed their scaly skin? Before, their bodies have been overlaid with a horny skin. That would be the snake skin. And enveloped with a cloud of glory. No sooner had they violated the command given to them than the cloud of glory and the horny skin dropped from them, and they stood there in their nakedness and ashamed. And I'm not, what I'm about to read here and tell you, it's not necessarily what I subscribe to or believe, but apparently there are people who do believe in it. And these are the secret societies of the Freemasons, Illuminati, Rosicrucians, Jesuits, Vatican. The symbols are there. Go look at the Vatican and the symbols and pictures. The Zionists think that they're descendants of these fiery serpents, the chosen ones. Is that the case? And you're going to find out all the things that happened and that are described in this book circle all around the Middle East and Jerusalem and Egypt and Babylon. Today in 2015, February 1st today, Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, it seems to be a return of these creatures, or have they been here all along? And are these the cause of the UFO sightings and the alien abductions, where people have been impregnated, or men that have been taking the sperm, and then later on abducted again and shown their offspring, which were half human and half reptilian or some other kind of looking horrified creature, to the mother. But the mother's instinct still was there, and the mother loved her child. And the child looked up at the mother, and there was that bond, described by a lot of people who were abducted. We're never going to get through this book. I keep talking about it. Anyways, man soon populated the earth as slaves. And I'm just skipping over stuff here, so you go get the book if you want to read it all. Man soon populated the earth as slaves for these saurian masters, reptilian creatures. He was sorely tested by the astronauts who descended to Earth. Remember, this is R A Boulay's book that he wrote. Maybe this is what he believes. He was sorely tested by the astronauts who descended to Earth and mated with the daughters of man. There you go, the Bible story. Known in the scriptures as the Nephilim. And they not only produced mixed offspring, but also conducted genetic experiments that went awry and produced many monstrous forms. Aren't they doing that today? They're producing, there have been discoveries washed up on the shores of an island off of Long Island where they had a lab. Grotesque beast, pardon my speech, beast creatures would wash up on the shore. I guess that they created on that island that got away and got in the water and died. And then, of course, Monsanto making the Frankenstein foods, genetically modified foods, which do not are not recognized by your cells in your body when you consume them. Some of them, they say, in reports of how dangerous they are, causing cancer and tumors in animals. So your stomach doesn't recognize the modified foods, some of them, as foods, and they attack them like an enemy. That's a problem. And then the cloning and the genetic experiments. There's a lot of reports out there of an abundance of this stuff going on, which is what happened apparently if you've ever read up on the Atlantean stories and books, when the islands sank off the coast, Atlantis, and the people went inland like into Egypt. The Atlanteans mixed with the Egyptian people, but they were doing some kind of DNA manipulation and creating hybrid human sex slaves or other kinds of slaves, which horrified the Egyptians. And they were fighting, and finally a treaty was made, and the Atlanteans agreed to cease and desist from making these creatures. So were the Atlanteans the reptilians also? It seems that that's very likely the case. The ancients of the Bible. In the Old Testament, the overriding need for privacy is also true. During the event known as the Exodus, the deity lived in a tent and was never seen. So these creatures didn't want to be seen, possibly. Maybe we can understand why. And they didn't want any graven images made in their images, and they were worshipped as gods. So the deity lived in a tent and was never seen, nor did he dine in public. Specific instructions were given to Moses on how to prepare the food, which was left on a grill near the quarters of the deity for him to snack in privacy. So if they sacrificed a human, did they have barbecue a la human? There's some stories about the queen doing some gross testings during satanic rituals, getting viciously aggressive and gnawing at live children, eating them. Too much to believe, which you can find on the internet. You start researching this stuff and you read these books and you begin to wonder, is this stuff not true or possible? Page 23, again, I'm just skipping through this book, giving you the gist of the story. Although the term Anunnaki is used generically to apply to all the Proto-Sumerians who came to this planet, it literally means the sons of An. I thought about this. The creatures are called An, or the main leader was An. A-N. And I thought, well, if I just stick a M in front of it, it's man. That A didn't come out well. So the main leader was An, and he wanted to create humans in their own image and called them man. It's not in this book, I just noticed that was the case. So the sons of An, their great god, in the antediluvian period, that's prior to the Noah's flood, the Great Flood, a large group of these Anunnaki descended from the mother ship to colonize Earth, aliens. The colonization of divine beings from the heavens is also referred to in the scriptures, where 200 Nephilim, or so-called fallen angels, descended in the antediluvian period and settled on Mount Hermon, so prior to the flood now. Mount Hermon, the border of Lebanon and Palestine, the now taken over and occupied Israeli country. The Nephilim of the book of Genesis, we shall see, is just another name for the Anunnaki, the god astronauts, and the Sumerian pantheon. So I do use my brain, and I have critical thinking. So with the ancient Jewish folks who said that the gods gave them the lands of Palestine, would that have been these reptilians? Are they in charge of our banks today? The Freemasonic lodges, is the secret deities, the pantheon and names of gods, you know, the pagans, the many gods, Satan, Lucifer, Ra, Osiris, Isis, Horus, the all-seeing eye on the dollar. All one and the same? 4 of these gods were the older and senior ones. There was An, A-N, and if you put an M in front of it, is man. Enlil, E-N-L-I-L, Enlil. And Enki, apparently the guy who actually created humans according to this material. And Nihursag. 3 younger gods completed the big 7, and they were the Nannar, Uta, and Iana. The senior gods, An, the father of the Anunnaki. Zachariah Stitchins in all his books. This is the kind of material that's in his books, which I do have one of his books which I'm going to read, so we can compare that book to this book when I read it. An, or Anna, in Akkadian meant he of the heavens. Sorry about my speaking. Sometimes it flows better and sometimes it don't. And his name was always written pictographically as a star. So the main god in the Egyptian hieroglyphics would have been a star, would have been his symbol when you read it. He was the great progenitor and senior god who stood above all the other gods. His abode and seat of authority was in the heavens. The orbiting spaceship, or the Ura Sag An Anna, literally the chief city of heaven. So they had maybe a gigantic spaceship, moon size maybe. Some say the moon is a gigantic spaceship now. He descended to earth only on special occasions, in time of crisis or for ceremonial reasons. And when on earth, he would stay in his temple. Hope you're finding this interesting. An had 3 children, 2 sons, Enlil, E-N-L-I-L, and Enki, and a daughter, Nehusag. The division of authority between his 2 sons caused much dissension. You know, what's new about that? Happens all the time between 2 boys. Alright, Enlil became the most powerful god of the Sumerian pantheon. That would be the land of summer out there in the Middle East, Egypt, Palestine, Syria, all the places where we're having all the chaos and turmoil right now, and murder and anarchy. You think there's a comparison? They say these are the so-called end times with the return of the Antichrist, and skies spraying us with chemicals every day, and cloning, and the banks ripping off all the people, causing all the chaos, killing presidents and other people worldwide, passing legislation to allow the president to authorize the death of anybody in the world, in the United States. Considered an enemy of the state. So would a truth seeker, trying to find out the truth, become an enemy of the state who wants to keep the truth wrapped up? And maybe it's these creatures And if you read the Freemasonic book, Morals and Dogma, tons of references to the Middle East and these entities. That's part of the secrets and the symbols. We'll look at that again. Alright, so Enlil was the powerful god of the Sumerian pantheon in the Middle East. Literally, the Lord of the Command. Enlil was commander of the expedition of the Anunnaki on Earth. And the timing is interesting of all this. Apparently, if you do a chart, and there are some charts in this book that do tell the time frame. We'll get to it, but maybe we can take a quick peek at it right now. If I can find it. But it shows, historically, after the flood, say 7,000 years ago. So this is 2,000 years after Christ. So before Christ would have been 5,000 years of history. And it talks about the generation and generations of these Anunnakis, reptilian entities and their offspring and their offspring's offspring and their offspring's offsprings and the kings and the wars and on for 5,000 years. So anyways, Enlil was the commander of the expedition of the Anunnaki to Earth. Enlil made sure that the decrees of the god, the commands of the gods in council were carried out against mankind. He is often depicted with a bow and arrow. Didn't we just see that? This would have been Enlil. E-N-L-I-L. Notice the kilt he's wearing. The winged disc. Enlil disliked mankind. That sounds like Satan, Lucifer. And only tolerated humans as necessary to provide for the welfare of the gods. Now you know why we're having a new age and a new world order with the return of Nibiru or Planet X, and apparently the U.S. government since Truman or whoever, Eisenhower, communicated with aliens that crashed on Earth. I think just before Kennedy got killed, he had communicated with the Russian president. And they were supposed to expose a lot of this to the public. But then we know Kennedy was murdered. From his temple atop the Encore at Newport, it was said that he had eyes that could see the land. Scan the land, excuse me. The equipment used sounds very much like some of the radar and scanning devices. So one would suspect 7,000 years ago, after the flood, when these entities returned, this is talking about them being here before the flood, they had the technologies that we have today, and probably greater. And if we did my Nikolai Tesla book, ever since he was a child, he was getting visions and images and entities in his dreams telling him about all the inventions. So were these entities part of the feeding all these technologies to humans? Telepathy? And if, in my research, a lot of the historic famous people I've studied, that is the case. They got interdimensional, telepathic, spiritual information. They didn't come up with it. They were told this stuff. In their books it says so. Everything from Edison, Newton, almost everybody I've read. Edgar Cayce got information from the other side. The Peruvian shamans take the drug ashkahushka, however you say it. It's a vine, some kind of vine. Maybe it's a drug like the peyote out west or the opium in the Middle East. And they go into this trance state and they can see these entities. And they get information on how to heal people. And other things. So from his temple atop Angkor at Newport, it was said that he had eyes that could scan the land. The equipment used sounds very much like a sort of radar or scanning device, for the tablets state that he raised the beams that search the heart of all the lands. Enlil's rule was at a time turbulent. One day, seeing a goddess naked and bathing by a stream on earth below, he became enamored by her and descended to seduce her. Well, how human of them, huh? He got aroused by seeing the naked goddess. The Pantheon was horrified at the escapade of Enlil, since it apparently abrogated one of their basic conventions. Although he was the chief god, he was exiled from the spaceship and stripped of his powers. Just shows you these gods have problems with interrelationships and organization themselves. So we expect to have them ruling our planet and training our cops to subdue and attack us with the wings on their shirts and the military equipment they're shipping them every day these days, even in 2015. Go on the internet, look at some videos. Once you pay attention to enough of this stuff, it starts to gel together, and you see the bigger picture of what might really be the problem and what's behind everything. We humans need to stop being ignorant and apathetic and wake up. They are publishing books like this, and some people believe this stuff, true or not. It's not an imaginary shirt. These guys are not imaginary doing exercises outside the city of LA in California. Look at this video. They act like an enemy, the police departments these days, to the people. What's going on? Lingering resentment over his disinheritance and the growing competition over who would control activities on Earth brought Enki into direct conflict with his brother Enlil. Enki was all things to the expedition: chief engineer, chief scientist, chief of mining, and more importantly, the creator of mankind. Genetic manipulation. As a master engineer, he supervised the turning of the marshlands of Lower Mesopotamia into a veritable paradise. In a self-laudatory poem, he boasts of making the marshlands a haven for the birds and fishes, or directing the invention and use of the plow and yoke, of starting animal husbandry, farms, and bringing the construction arts to earth in order to raise the cities. So teaching the humans how to build cities. Enki. Enki had many epithets. He was the god of wisdom, the god of mining, the lord of flowering and waters. Flowing waters. Sorry about my speeches all the time. Pictures. They found these tablets with all these pictographs. And if you pay attention, you can see that the different things on those pictographs tell the story. Moving on to page 27. Eridu was the first city built by the alien astronauts So Enki was probably responsible for building the first city on Earth called Eridu. Was located at the edge of the watered plain of Eden. Stuff in the Bible. Enki loved to go sailing and cruising on these watercourses in his watercraft, which he called the Ibex, I-B-E-X, after the nimble goats which inhabited the surrounding mountains. In this way, the Ibex and the goat with the fishtail became symbolic of the god Enki. So a goat with a fishtail became the symbolic for god Enki and appears often in Sumerian seals. The goat with the fishtail. He is also shown at times with his two sons, Gibel and Nergal, who were in charge of mining activities, but most important of all, Enki is remembered as the god who created man and who came to his defense against a capricious Enlil. So Enki protected mankind from Enlil, who hated mankind. The two sons of An with an M in front of it's called man, creating God in our image. The serpent was also Enki's symbol. Presumably for its ability to shed its skin and therefore achieve some sort of immortality. Just as the capricious Enlil, is remembered as the god who brought the deluge. So they're saying Enlil hated mankind so bad that he caused the worldwide flood. Enki is recognized as the one who saved mankind by his timely warning of the coming disaster to the Sumerian Noah. And if we remember my other books, down in Egypt, Ecuador and Peru, and even the Hopis, apparently prior to the flood, some kind of aliens or beings helped them build underground facilities for safety during the flood. I've talked about this in my previous videos and shown you the books and the symbols and the pyramids and the snakes and the all-seeing eye. It all matches. Enki and Nurhasag, that's his sister, directed biological experiments in the laboratories atop of the Zuggernaut at Sherapak. The Zuggernaut is those pyramidal structures, I think. At Sherapak, in the Enki's floating headquarters, which led to the creation of the first primitive man called a Lulu. So the first primitive man was called a Lulu. That's crazy. A hybrid mammal-reptilian form. This was done at the direct request of Enlil, that's the older brother, who wanted a creature able to take over the burdensome workload now being performed by the children of An. That's the leader, An, A-N. Create man in our own image and put an M in front of it, it's man. M-A-N. Just noticing things. In crossbreeding the Lulu with the wild primitive man of the period, Neanderthal man, they achieved a new worker type, modern man, or Homo sapiens, better known as the Cro-Magnon man. It was this activity that brought down the wrath of Enlil. So the older brother wasn't happy with mixing the Lulu with the human primitive man. It further diluted the Syrian strain, so it made them less reptilian. How less reptilian could it have made them? Could they become close to looking human? And you can catch them on some videos shape-shifting like they say on the internet in a lot of places. Just me asking questions. So they were thinking that in further diluting the Syrian strain, he saw it as a direct threat to the survival of the reptilian race. And if you look at the picture graphs, you can see a lot of this stuff we're discussing. The half human, half animals, the different symbols of the snakes. All right, moving on. Okay, so they had some conflicts over leadership. There was another claimant to the leadership, Marduk, the eldest son of Enki, was unranked in the pantheon. He also assumed the title of 50 as he proclaimed himself chief of Babylon. Here we go into Iraq again. Marduk. Go look up Marduk in images. M-A-R-D-U-K. Anyways, this manifested itself into a constant warfare among the cities of Mesopotamia, which became pawns in the struggle of the competing gods. Makes you wonder about the world right now, where they're trying to get a new world order and arrange the world into 7 different districts. Are these godlike beings vying for power over the 7 different districts on Earth? Are these part of the Illuminati, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, DuPonts, Collins, and many other names, Morgans and Chases, like Chase Bank? The Sumerian gods were always depicted geographically with horned crowns. In later days, the senior gods were represented by the horn crown sitting on the altar. So, trying to see one of these horn crowns here. Another picture graph here. You can see the snake, and the horn crowns are the second level down from the top, under that moon. See those little tables with the horn crowns on it? That would have been 3 of the gods. And you got the other representation of the gods with the serpent thing and the vulture head. And then Enki with his bow and arrow. Enlil with his bow and arrow there. So apparently these interpreters interpreted all this. And these are the stories that are told. In other words, the symbol Dinger meant that the name which followed was that of the god who was separated from common humanity by his ability to move about the celestial chariot or craft. So in the Bible they call it the fiery chariot. Ancient India, the Hindu religion, even the Chinese with the long dragons during their celebrations. All the stuff connects from my research. We're only up to page 32. Born of the rape of Nanar, the bright one, was the favorite son of Enlil. So when he raped that priestess, I guess he had a son named Nenlil, and that was his favorite son called Nanar. After the deluge, so after the flood, he was assigned all the lands of Mesopotamia, Syria, and Palestine. Think about this. Put your thinking cap on. Why all the chaos and murder of Arabs and taking over of the Middle East, Syria? And why do they want to rebuild the altar, King Solomon's temple, which is one of the shrines of the Freemasons and Illuminati and all the other Rosicrucian occultic cultures? And everything was always kept secret, and they were called the Illumined Ones. And they were adepts when they were trained, and they had some kind of masters who communicated to them. So what's going on in our reality, right in front of our faces in the front pages of the newspapers, seems to have everything to do with this. Maybe wise for us to wake up, Because apparently they have these population issues where, like, the Georgia USA Guidestones say they want a population of 500 million. Apparently these Anunnaki, reptilian people, disguised maybe as many of our leaders, don't want to control 6 billion people. And they're sky spraying us and HARP systems microwaving us. Got who knows what putting in our sodas and our foods for the children. You think not? I read a lot, so I know a lot, I think. I don't know everything. Some of this stuff might not be true, but I know that in Fritz Springmeier's book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati, there's your disc on the bottom, or the wings on the bird. Look at the skull and bones below it. The pyramid, the sun's rays, Bloodlines of the Illuminati. And of course they have the names in here. Like Astor, and a flowchart of the family. This book is very interesting. Of all the Astors, and they got the Rockefellers in here, Rothschilds and Collins and DuPonts. I don't have to show you all that. We've done this book before. But what I did think was interesting, so there's your kid sitting down to breakfast, eating cereal Kellogg's. See the Kellogg name there? So all these families, Rothschilds, Bloodlines of the Illuminati, these illumined ones, Rockefeller, secret organizations belonging to these occult groups, family bloodlines, for centuries. Here's one, Reynolds. There's many cities and streets and mountains named Reynolds. So I've been paying attention to the maps and things like that. And Onassis, the family. So there you have it. On the Illuminati, there's the symbol of the disc. Well, the double-headed bird, as you can see, the phoenix. And then, of course, the crown on top, and the wings, and the skulls, and the pyramid. Where you see all the movie stars doing this. And a lot of our presidents, and even the Pope, and everybody's doing the devil sign. What the heck is going on? Getting back to the book. So anyways, Enlil's favorite son was Nana, after he raped that priestess, which made him lose his superior position for a while. He was reinstated. His sacred city was Ur, the capital city, and his sacred symbol was the crescent moon. We know the crescent moon is everywhere in symbolism. North Carolina, it's on the state flag. Crazy. The symbol was dominated by post-Diluvian times, that it later was adapted by Islam, just as the cross of the Shamash was adopted by the Christians. Anyways, page 32 at the bottom, Utu, chief of the space facilities. Over there in Lebanon, a place called Baalbek, a lot of people probably know this, they have this gigantic stone, maybe the size of a 10-story building or 6-story building, turned on its side. Gigantic stone. 12 feet wide, 11 feet high, 80 feet long. Unbelievable. Mined from miles away. And apparently, they surmise that this stone was the foundation for a spacecraft that could land and take off. Interestingly enough, King Solomon's temple, if you go look at the pictures, down in the base of the bottom of the temple are these gigantic stones. So did they build King Solomon's temple on the foundations of an ancient alien launch pad? I didn't say that. That's referenced in these books. I mean, I didn't create that. Alright, Utu, or the Shining One, was the grandson of Enlil, with Iana, was a twin brother to Nannar. So I guess when he raped that girl, they had twins, the priestess. Utu City was in antediluvian times, was the space platform at Serpar, from the freighters laden with metals shuttled to and from the orbiting spaceship. After the deluge, the Great Flood, Serpar remained his sacred city, although he moved his space activities to the west to the land of Lebanon, which is just above Israel, and where Baalbek became the new space platform. And you can go on the internet and search out Baalbek images, and you'll see those stones and all that. They got people standing next to the stones looking like little ants. The serpent, which overshadows the whole pantheon, probably represents the pantheon as serpent gods. So this kind of jives with what you got with the Bible, with the serpent getting Adam and Eve to eat of the tree of knowledge. And then it was kind of, they didn't want him to eat of the tree of life and live forever, so they had to kick him out of the Garden of Eden. So it is written. Let's see here. So Serpar remained in the sacred city after the flood. His Semitic name is Shamash. So that would be the Semitic name. The city of Baalbek was called Beth Shamash in the Old Testament, and in other words, the house of Shamash. The symbol of Shamash was the four-pointed star against a disk with rays. Later, the winged solar disk became associated with Shamash. So we got the Illuminati and the rays behind the wings and the pyramid. Fritz Springmeier's book. Go get this. Nice thick book. So you read Fritz Springmeier's Illuminati, and here's the double-headed thing on the Morals and Dogma, the Bible of the Freemasons. See the two-headed eagle? The Illuminati. See the two-headed eagle? Slowly, we're connecting the dots. This looks like Enlil here with the disc and the wings. And instead of the bread and wine, which we do as Christians, they had the pine cone and the pail of water. These priests, you can see it there in the picture, they have a pail of water and a pine cone. So that was the food and water. The tree of life is in the middle there. And the Shamash and astronauts with the tree of life. That's what that bottom picture is. I'm not trying to read you this book. I'm up to page 35. You know, go buy the book. In Anna, the beloved of An, the beloved of An, was a twin to Shamash and granddaughter of An. An, A-N. Better known for her Semitic name as Ishtar. Ishtar. I took a look to see if I had any Ishtar images. Couldn't find them. The youngest son of Enlil. You can go on the internet, I-S-H-T-A-R, and goddess. I did just check it on the computer. There's a whole page just full of Ishtar images. The youngest son of Enlil was Ishkor, and he is the mountain land, was assigned Anatolia as his domain. Ishkor attempted some inroads into the politics of Mesopotamia, but mostly he limited his activities to trying to extend his sphere of influence and control over Palestine or Canaan. So the land where the Palestinians is called Palestine and the Palestinians live, historically it was called Canaan. And so it was the land of Canaan that apparently the gods gave to the chosen people, so they say the Jewish Hebrews, which are likely have nothing to do with the current Zionist Israelis, Jewish people, so-called, living there now. They say they came from southern Russia, the Khazar region, whose king years ago adopted the religion of the Jewish people as the national religion of his country. Hence, the Khazars instantly became Jewish people who weren't Jewish people. So the story goes. And remember, am I right on everything? Of course not. But it does get us into the circle, the target zone, and give us room for thinking, critical thinking, and putting the whole larger puzzle together. Better known for his Semitic name Adad, he was the god of thunder and lightning. He is often depicted holding a forked lightning bolt. Adad was in all probability the Yahweh, Jehovah, of the Old Testament, who tried to use Abraham at first and later Moses to expand his sphere of influence over the land of Canaan. So here would be the so-called Yahweh, Jehovah, according to this author. You know, I keep saying, you know, what's true and what's not true. That may not be as important as what they believe, the secret Freemasons and Illuminati, morals and dogma, and the bloodlines of the Illuminati, the banksters. So you're getting a better focus, I am anyways, on who and what we're dealing with. I mean, we're not so naive as to believe that mankind popped out of nowhere and that we're the only creatures of intelligence in the universe. And so I would suspect there are other entities. Heck, if God is real, which I believe there is a God, in the spiritual realm, all-powerful. And apparently, you know, when they say in the Bible, Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father, apparently there's more than one besides God in his race and spiritual beings, whatever they are, creating mankind in their image. We are spiritual beings, after all, in biological human animal bodies. You don't think so? Go look at an animal. It's got 2 eyes, nose, ears, heart, veins, red blood, tongues and teeth, and everything like man. Many animals. So it's not hard to believe that we spiritual beings are in these human bodies. There's more to reality than the material realm that we see. And apparently there could be these entities have been living here on Earth forever. But the problem we have right now is the problem we have right now. And it seems that there is a ongoing campaign, plan, in effect, for the reconstruction of the world in a new regime. a communist type nation. To put it bluntly, slavery. And we'd better wake up. They want to take the guns. They have built FEMA camps. They have built underground cities. UFO sightings are not imagination. As Freud might say, everybody has a sexual urge and is seeing rocket ships. I don't believe that. I believe a lot of those people who took pictures and posted them on the internet. Look at the crop circles. When there's some videos of the crop circles actually being made with little light beings, it seems like, circling and hovering over the circle like flies, instantaneously, within seconds, creating the crop circle. So these light beings are making the crop circles, so it seems. And even with the winged disc, they're making the crop circles. So are there several levels to these Anunnaki? The cast out beings from heaven, God's world. Are they reptilian type beings? Are there others out there? And what nefarious plans do they have for us humans? H-U-M-A-N, humans. And with an M. Alright, as a god, page 39, serving as retainer to Enlil, Zu plotted a palace revolution by trying to seize control of the tablets of destiny that Enlil had carelessly left unattended. So apparently they have these, I don't want to call them magical, but they had these tablets that were pretty powerful. Tablets of destiny. I mean, today we have things, printing on demand. You can print out metal objects and plastic objects on demand. This technology and science is just moving forward. In the meantime, of course, they got the cameras and the monitoring and the restriction of our civil liberties and rights and money and wealth and health they're taking from us. What kind of world do they have planned? And of course, they don't want us to see them. And they're training our officers to be our enemy. Why does the local police, it says police under that vest, doesn't it? Why do local police arm up like that? Far removed from Andy Griffin, isn't it? As Enlil was taking a bath, Zu conceived the idea of stealing the Mies, the tablets of destiny, contending that these divine decrees would give him control over the Anunnaki and mankind and placing him in command of the pantheon of the whole God system. So Zu wanted to become the leader. Finally, Enki forged a new special weapon in his laboratory. It was given to Nainuta, the military aide to Enlil, who finally defeated Zu and brought him back to his airship for trial, thus ending the worst threat that ever experienced the Sumerian rule deities. The presence of similar symbols of authority are mentioned in the scriptures, where it is often stated that the procession of certain divine names conferred extraordinary power. Again, you got the occultic, magic, magicians, witchcraft, Zionism, Jesuit, secret vaults of the Vatican, the Smithsonian Institute, which has vaults and who knows what hidden away that they have confiscated all over the world for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. What do they know that they're not telling us? But they're hiding from us. Were the Mies of the Sumerians the same as the divine names of the scriptures? All right, here we go. When Enoch, the antediluvian patriarch, was deified, upon his ascent to the heavenly abode, that's Enoch, he was given 70 names according to the Hebrew Apocalypse of Enoch, also called the first book of Enoch. This document is believed to have originated in Babylonian Jewry, the Jewish religion, and is attributed to the Rabbi Ishmael, the renowned Palestinian scholar who died in AD 132. The 70 names conferred power and authority to Enoch, second only to the chief deity. The divine names gave Enoch the power to smite kings, elevate the humble, subdue rulers, confer wisdom, make judgments, and control the procession of time and the seasons. Wow, there's some power there to control time and seasons. Presumably the latter meant that the authority to adjust the calendar when necessary, such as worldwide catastrophes, made the old calendars obsolete. I think I'll stop here. We'll do another video. The goal is to try to find out who and what behind the scenes is causing all the chaos and anarchy on the planet right now. Who are they? What are they? What are they? How do we rationalize seeing UFOs and alien abductions and sightings? How do we rationalize the U.S. government printing money like water, warring all over the world, controlled by these guys, the high-up Illuminati, who control the same thing with the European Union, which was created in secret from the nations that compile the whole European Union. They were not in on the planning. Just like right now, they got the Trans-Pacific trade agreement going on between the United States and a bunch of other nations. Philippines, Peru, Canada. And in that Trans-Pacific agreement, it says there that any of these corporations are protected. And if a country like the USA makes laws, environmental laws, protecting our water, and this environmental laws, legislation, interferes with their business enterprise, that these corporations can sue the government for millions, billions of dollars. So the people don't have any right to protect their environment, their freedom, their sovereignty. These corporations are taking over. Who controls them? Who controls the corporations? All presidents, according to Fritz Springmeier's book, it says right in this book, he did the genealogy charts. They were all related, most of them. So they're selected, as President Roosevelt said, not elected. We're fooled. If people knew how the election process actually works, they wouldn't bother to vote. It's useless. It's all a scam, a deception. And then anybody who gets in any kind of high place has to pass through these guys. The Freemasons, Illuminati Heritage Foundation, Council of Rome, Bohemian Grove, Zionism, Illuminati, Rosicrucians, and hundreds of other names. You can go on the internet and look up Mason hierarchy, pyramid structure, and you'll see all the charts and of all the organizations, thousands. And nobody who, like all the movie stars doing the triangle signal or the devil sign and all that, if you don't sign a statement with these people, and a lot of movie stars and famous people basically made an agreement with the devil. They're reptilians. To play the propaganda to the people in order for their fame and their gain. And as the snakester usually does, he deceives them in the end. So again, who are these people? Are they among us? Hope you're looking forward to the next part of this video. It's kind of interesting. The antediluvian cities and their purpose. That'll be where we take off next. Thank you for watching my videos. I'm just trying to search for the truth. What's going on? And who's doing it?